And good morning, everybody. It rained like crazy. It is a mud pit out here, but the show must go on. I just bought this old truck right here. I'm not sure what year this thing is. I think it's a 52 or 3, somewhere around there. It's a push button. There's a few differences in those 2 years. I can't remember all the details. It's got the chrome piece up here, and I know that was 1 year it was painted, 1 year was chrome. There's lots of little differences in these trucks. It's kind of beat up in the face. It's got a lot of dents in the fenders, some rust. The grill's got some dents. Definitely going to be a wall hanger nose. I don't see any potential in this nose as bad as it is. I get much nicer ones that I cut up because nobody buys those. But the cab itself, I don't think we're going to cut the cab up. We'll probably pull this cab off of here and sell it whole. It's got one dent right there, and the passenger door has a little tiny spot of rust up here in the front corner. But other than that, this cab is actually pretty nice. There's no rust on the seam back here. Cab corners are solid. Dash is good in it. The windshield's all good. It's not rotted out around the vent up here in the front. The floors are all pretty solid, so definitely a buildable truck. It's got the Farmer Special window crank on it. But yeah, I don't see any potential in this truck leaving whole, so we'll pull this cab off. Everybody always asks, I guess I'll answer the question now while I'm thinking of it. Why do I pull these cabs off like that? It's because these cabs are identical to the half-ton cabs. The only difference is you have to make a little spot over here in this corner to put your emergency brake instead of in the center. So you got to do a little bit of work on the floor, but not much. And you know, half tons are always low to the ground and they get driven year round, and so they rust out a lot worse than these grain trucks that are high off the ground and only get driven usually in nice weather. But the main thing I like about this truck, and the main reason I bought it, is that right there. Somebody hijacked the radiator, unfortunately, but it does have a 261 in it that still turns. That is a good engine. Those are hard to find and they sell really good. I've got 2 of them out back right now, but both of them have 235 heads on them and they're both stuck. So what do you do? But this one here is a 261 head, 261 block. But anyway, going on now. Today's agenda is I've got the torch loaded up in my truck still. I'm going to head out to the other yard here in just a minute as soon as I take some pictures for some people. I'm going to have to see how muddy it is. Of course, now I finally feel good. If you didn't watch my previous video, I was really sick last week and I was out there working anyway, but I was having a really hard time. But I feel much better today. Now it may be too muddy to get in there because I have to be able to drive my truck around to all the different things that need cut up. But my truck's pretty good and those roads are pretty hard packed, so I think we'll be fine. If not, worst case scenario, we might have to end up waiting another day or two. It's a mud pit. Like I say, it's pretty solid underneath the surface, so I think we'll be fine. I have a guy interested in the 302 that was in that van there. Messaged me this morning. I said, I got one actually just the other day. It's just about out. Just got to unbolt it and lift it out of there. Told him $500 for it, and he thought I was absolutely crazy. So I guess we won't worry about selling that one right now. A lot of people are still used to the days when you could buy an engine like that for 50 bucks, but man, for the labor to pull that out anymore, can't really afford it. Especially when it'll bring 50 bucks, actually bring about $65 or $70 just to leave it in there. I think we're gonna do this one here. Actually, it's not nearly as muddy as I thought it was gonna be. Of course, it was so dry, this ground just soaked that water up. Oh, I forgot to clean my truck out last week. Oops, I forgot to go buy storage. Oh, well, I think we can still get to it. Rearrange all these converters. Why is it that no matter what you do, this valve is always pointed the wrong direction? This frame here had hydraulic brakes on it. A lot of these old buses have air brakes on them. And so when I was cutting along, I wasn't expecting the fireball to come out from hitting the brake line. It wasn't that big of a deal. I've had that happen a million times before in the past. It's never really that big of a fireball. Just when you don't expect it, it startles you. But my dad had to leave and run some errands, so what I'm going to do is go ahead and hijack the loader and crush that farm equipment in this frame, and probably load that other frame up in the dumpster. That's not good. It almost went crooked. Trying to film, there's nowhere on this loader. It's all plastic. Everything's plastic, so I can't attach my camera to the loader unless I put it way out there, but then you can't get a good view. So I have to hold the camera, but then stuff like this happens. Because this is already going to be a really tight fit in the semi-trailer, so this has got to be exact. It can't be poking out at all. I guess that's not a real bad view. There we go, that worked out good. What I did was I pulled the car away from the back wall a little bit, so it was kind of in the middle of the crusher to where that rear end would straddle the car a little bit. Just crushes a lot better that way. It's easier to load that way. So now I'll take another car and put it with the engine facing that direction. It'll make a nice even bundle. Perfect. That worked out great. Everybody always asks why we leave some of the aluminum wheels on and pull some off. That's because these here all have funky lug nuts on them, and yeah, we could fight them, but like I've mentioned a million times before, we only make about $5 or $6 a piece extra once we go through all the effort of pulling the wheels off, and then we have to pay to get rid of the tires. So we really only make about $4 a piece extra on the wheels. So on ones like that there that just do not want to cooperate, or we had to put a ton of extra effort into, it's not worth it anymore. But that's that. Now I got to figure out where I'm going to stack these bundles. Prices drop, so we don't really want to ship loads, but we may have to ship loads anyway. See if I can even pick this up, or if it's too front heavy. That's front heavy deluxe. Scoot it a little bit this way. Does that get her? That got her. I still got to be careful, because with not much persuasion, this will go whoop. I've done it before. The scariest I ever had was one time I was carrying a frame. It was a trailer house frame actually, and it ripped in half on me, and one side of it came swinging around, and it came and just went right through the windshield of the loader. Luckily these pillars stopped it. It was on one of our older loaders. We still have it actually, and it kind of had pillars right about here, and that stopped it from coming in. But if it would have had one of the side pieces pointing like that, it would have went right through me. That was a scary day. That was probably the scariest thing that's ever happened to me. There was another time I was crushing an old antique cement mixer, and there was a spring under tension with a bolt, and the bolt snapped and the spring smacked the windshield right in front of me, dead center. But that happened so fast I didn't have time to react. I mean, it mangled the windshield. It was a big spring. Safety glass did its job and saved me, but man, that would have messed my face up bad. That happened so fast, it wasn't really that scary until I got to thinking about it after the fact. But that trailer house, I saw it all happening in slow motion in my mind, and that was quite an experience. Woo-wee. That was loud. That one had some pressure in it. we go. That's a good looking bundle. That came out just about perfect, really. And of course it didn't hit record when I hit record earlier, so you guys missed everything of pulling these wheels off. That was quite the fiasco. It just about fell over on top of me, but oh well, can't get it all. This camera's giving me fits today and I don't know why. This old B2000 just came in for scrap, but check this out. It's got a split moonroof in it. It's all there. It's not in too bad a shape. Looks like they've repaired the one side on the hinges a little bit, but still it's a workable piece. So I think what I'm going to do is, I know these sell, people like to have a little bit of sheet metal with them to be able to graft them into their vehicle, so I think I'll just cut the pillars on this and take the whole roof off. There we go. Came right off of there. It doesn't weigh nothing. I can pick it up easy. Definitely a cool piece. I was looking online and it's really hard to find the split ones. I found one that sold and it was just the window, and it was probably in a little bit better condition than this one, and it sold for $500. This one here is going to need all new gaskets and whatnot in it, all new rubber, plus those two hinges that were repaired already. They didn't do a real good job of that, so it's not going to be a $500 one for sure, but definitely well worth the effort of taking off of there. Got this interceptor in as well. They said something's wrong with the engine, it rattles, or probably a blown engine in it. It does have the aluminum subframe under the front of it though, and I know those used to be really popular for people doing Crown Vic swaps, so hopefully I can find a home for that. But if not, I'll go ahead and crush it later. This here still has a catalytic converter and a copper radiator in it. I started cutting the radiator accessible. I'll rip it the rest of the way out and we'll cut the converter off. But right now I'm gonna hop in the loader, go back there and throw that bus frame in the dumpster. I think this one's a little bit longer than the last one I put in the dumpster hole. I don't think this one's gonna quite fit, but we're gonna do our best anyway. If it doesn't fit, as long as it's close to fitting, we'll call it good. Yeah, no, it's sticking out the other end of the dumpster. Quite a bit, actually. Is that going to be an issue? I don't think so. I'm just going to send it. I tell you what, today has been quite the day. I forgot all my keys, so I had to go back and get all my keys. I get back out here and realize I left my camera at home too, so I didn't feel like going back, so I just said forget the camera, I'll use my phone. Then the company that has the dumpster way out back that has the bus in it called and said they could come get that right away. So I hustled out here and I was moving really fast trying to get stuff moved, and I didn't see a piece of exhaust pipe laying on the ground, ran over it, popped a hole in the tire. Not a real big deal, I thought. They can come out, they can boot it, but it was a big deal because it's a pretty big hole. Everybody says I should foam fill the tires, but really this very rarely happens. It's really not that big of a deal, so it would cost more to foam fill the tires than what I would save. But anyway, like I say, it wasn't a real big deal. He came out, he was working on it, getting it taken care of. What we did was we took the booted tire off the front and put it on the back, and then put the good tire off the back on the front. We probably will have to replace that tire at some point in time, but it's working for now, so it's good to go. So like I say, it wasn't a real big deal. I had the tire company parked right here working on that. Well, then the railroad showed up and they decided to work on these tracks right here. They've had railroad ties sitting out here for a month and a half to work on these. And of course, when I have the tire company right there, they come in and start doing this right here. And so this was just solid people and equipment and trucks and everything else. It was kind of a fiasco, but looks like they're done. The tire company is done. Unfortunately, while all this was blocked off, that's when they were here to get the dumpster out back. And so they couldn't get to it. So I think they're going to come back later today if they have time. If not, it's going to be tomorrow or the next day. But anyway, we bought a whole bunch of cars. And so what I've got to do now is I've got to get a bunch of cars moved and stuff rearranged, get some stuff organized a little bit better to where we can get those cars in here. And we're just going to, as we get them, we're going to haul them nonstop and just stack them in a pile. And then we'll pull them back out of the pile and process them one at a time. We want to try to knock it out in a day or two at the most. I think there's 35 cars there, maybe 40, but for sure 35. But with that, I'm going to go ahead and finally, now at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, try to get some work done. I was going to cut the winch out of this, and I might still do that later this afternoon, but for now, I'm just going to get it out of the way, take it out back. I do have good news. They can get us a brand new tire sometime mid-morning tomorrow. And they've actually come down a ton in price. Last time I price checked them, they were a lot higher, so it's really not going to be that big a deal other than just the hassle of everything. There we go. That was the last major thing I wanted to get cut right now, right away, because I wanted to get this winch setup cut out of this old truck here. This is a ready built by Porter's, kind of an older setup. They've done a little bit of customizing up here, the way it bolted down, where they've welded to it, but it's not bad. I cut the bolt heads off. The back of it's still pretty nice. This winch worked. He used to haul his cars with this truck all the time, but there was something wrong with the truck. I forget what. We've had it for years now in the pile. Then I was able to get that off. I had to cut the bolts on the back side, is why I cut the bumper out like that. I thought I could just cut the whole thing out, but that piece there is welded to another bracket in the middle, so I had to cut each side out separately. That side over there, I just cut it off to the side. Then I was able to come in at an angle with the torch and get it, no problem. But everything's cut, ready to go, so I'm going to lift that out of there with a loader. I'm not sure what it's worth. I found one similar to it that sold for $400, but it was in a slightly better condition. It was recently working. This in here is not in bad condition, but it hasn't been recently working. But I may not even sell it. What I may do is just take that setup and put it on the back of an old truck of some sort, just for a yard art or something like that. I don't know. We'll see. Also, I forgot to mention it yesterday. I didn't have my camera, so I didn't record it, but I got this loaded with aluminum breakage, so they're supposed to come get that today as well. But now I've got to head out. My wife just called, and I guess she bought a couch. She chose a really bad day to buy it because I am so busy. I've got guys bringing cars from all over the place. But she bought it and said, hey, I just bought this. I need you to come get it right now. Luckily, I happen to have my trailer on because the back of my truck is clear full of stuff. And I know I wouldn't have time to unload it and go get a couch. But anyway, that's all for this video. I know this one probably wasn't that long of a video. I'm trying to make some of my videos a little bit shorter. Not all of them. I'll try to keep the long ones going too, but try to keep some a little bit shorter as well. That way I don't get overwhelmed with editing. But I'll quit rambling. I'll let you all go. I hope you enjoyed this one. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. As always, I hope you have an absolutely fantastic rest of your day. And remember to get out there, find an adventure. We'll see you on the next one.